So what are you doing down there?
Well, this morning I took an ATV to a, sister wife's dress shop. Impressed?
Completely.
Hello, lovers. Welcome back to And Just Like That, The Writer's Room, the official companion podcast of And Just Like That from Max. I'm Michael Patrick King, writer, director, executive producer of And Just Like That. And here at the writing room table with me today is executive producer, writer Elisa Zuritsky.
Hello.
Co-executive producer and writer Samantha Irby.
Hi.
Hi. As well as executive story editor, writer Rachel Palmer.
Hello.
And today we are here to talk about episode 4, Apples to Apples, written and directed by me, Michael Patrick King. Now, especially with this episode, if you haven't seen this episode, please stop listening right now, because this has a lot of spoilers in it, and we really want you to enjoy what you have to experience without us ruining it or spoiling it. Okay, before we actually talk about this actual episode specifically, I want to talk about the challenge of what we set up for ourselves as writers, which is the Carrie and Aidan arc. The idea that we had to play his side, her side, his side, her side. We had already in the history of the series, and Just Like That and Sex and the City, we've already been down the road with Carrie and Aidan. How many breakups? Yeah. You know, and we knew coming into this that people were like, she's going to hurt him again. Correct?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
100%.
It was a main concern.
That was the fear.
It was a fear. Talk about that, Rachel.
Yeah, I mean, everyone, I feel like in the 25 years or whatever this show has been on, you know, Carrie always has kind of been painted as the bad guy in the Carrie-Aidan relationship. And obviously, you know, she did cheat, so that was bad. But Aidan has his faults. I'm just going to throw that out there.
You know, what's really interesting, too, as we approach this season, I've had a couple of women come up to me who are in the Aidan's a narcissist camp, which I've never heard. But clearly, there are people who think he is a secret narcissist.
That's fascinating.
And there's a couple of women I know, and they're like, all like, I don't know about that. Meanwhile, I want to say, all those women single, none of them have children.
The ones who think he's a narcissist.
Think he's a narcissist. It's interesting
that
to
is
me.
Interesting.
But
I feel like we're all secret narcissists, though.
Yeah, some of us
can't
not
fault
so
them.
some of us not so secret.
This just in.
Anyway, and just like that, busted. Anyway, the fact of the matter is we wanted to talk about how to do this, how to have the audience swayed constantly. I'm with her, I'm with him. I'm with her, I'm with him. It was like a maze almost. We put her at one end and him at the other, and then our job as writers was to find a way to bring them all together. And this episode, Apples to Apples, is the test of how we were going to pull that off, because the problem with Carrie and Aidan is the family. That's the problem. So for us to actually risk going into the family, it had to at some point be as authentic as we wanted it to be, so that Carrie's reality is true and she believes it. So the episode really starts, we left her in the dark guest room at night, and it starts almost bucolically, Aaron Copland-like, pastorally, with Carrie in a sunlit room. You see the lake in the distance. You hear birds and woodland sounds, and you hear voices. And it's Aidan and his two sons, Wyatt and Homer, and they apparently are painting something right outside her bedroom window, and she's on the second floor. And the first time you see, I would say, the troubled child, the plot twist point, it's Wyatt. She's in bed wearing the clothes she wore the night before because her luggage has disappeared. And he looks in the window and she immediately ducks back. So that was a way of sort of saying, there they are. And then she comes outside and we see Carrie on the farm. The first thing you see is Carrie sort of stepping over a chicken, like it's a hand grenade, like if she goes the wrong way, everything will blow up. And you come around and you see that they are painting, and you see this, there's the beginning of the family. There's Aidan, Homer, the second son, and the baby, troubled son, Wyatt. As Kathy calls him, our little puzzle. And Homer is the middle child. He comes down the ladder, happy to see her, gives her a big
Jumps
hug.
into her arms.
Jumps into her big arms. Important, right? We wanted
Yeah.
it to not be like all court press
one
against
thing.
her. No. And it's really important that Carrie was welcomed. And you start to see that Aidan is acting a little bit differently. He doesn't kiss her. He doesn't actually even hug her. He just stands there, and his son hugs her, and he's wondering about Wyatt saying hi, and he kind of blows her off, right?
Yeah, I mean, he's living what he said is his priority. You feel that his first priority is those kids.
Right, those kids. Oh, Aidan, I thought you were going to say that Wyatt is living his priority, which is...
Oh, no, the kids are always living there for
Yes.
That's a
Closeted
given.
narcissists.
You know, Wyatt is giving her what he's giving her, which is very just perfunctory hello. And of course, the comedy is that Carrie feels she smells bad because she doesn't have any deodorant.
She couldn't be more of a fish out of water in
that
the
dress.
dress and the shoes.
The
It's like
shoes. The shoes stepping over the weights.
I mean, the weights. It's like I felt such a contact watching it. It's like, again, the difference between writing and typing words on a page or talking about it in the room versus seeing it. Like, oh, to be sleeping in your clothes and wearing heels on a farm. Like, ugh.
And those heels those are classic. They're from Sex and the City. They're called the gladiator heels. And she's worn those a couple of times, but they are the most out of place shoe.
Ugh.
They're clunky
I
and
hate
big.
being dressed in the wrong clothes. Like, I just hate
Yeah.
it.
Well, because she's not dressed to meet the kids.
No.
She's dressed to have like a sexy lunch with Aidan, and it's very clear.
Yeah.
What's
That's
very
such a
clear,
good point.
Rachel?
She's got her boobs out.
Yeah.
She's like, that's not a dress that you
Yeah.
meet your boyfriend's kids.
Yeah.
She looks gorgeous.
She had that was a drive-by dress. It wasn't a
Yeah.
hang-around
Yeah.
dress, you know?
Yeah.
And so
it
you
was like, look what you're missing up in New York.
That's so
and
true.
So Aidan claps his hands and says, "Let's have breakfast." And then we cut into Miranda, who's cat-sitting Shu. Now, people were like, "You don't need this scene," and I was like, "I need more Shu in the show,
Yes.
at all times."
Yes,
But
please.
then they were like, "You'll never get that cat to jump." Onto Miranda's abdomen. And I was like,
Yes, I
we'll
will.
see. And then that cat, by the way, whose name is Sage, and she's very wise and clearly a narcissist. I want to say not a secret narcissist. Sage needed her
He's a cat.
space. Anyway, you see Sage jump from the cat tree, which we love, right into Miranda, and Miranda screams and says, "You are so damn cute." So then you see another breakfast scene with Charlotte and her family. And here is a storyline that is so delightfully curated from many seasons ago. Julie once told us, Julie Rottenberg, one of the writers in the room, told us,
I think this was season 1.
yeah, about her building link where someone asked if anyone had a spare banana. And I, who have never had a building link, I've never lived in a building where people talk to each other. I've been in brownstones, I've been in sub-basements, but I've never had a building link. We sent carrier pigeons up in my day to see if anyone had a banana. But,
We banged with the broomstick. on
and
the
I could not get enough of the idea
Yeah.
of Harry being infuriated about this banana building link
Yeah.
thing.
And we tried for 2 seasons
Seasons
to get in, to figure out where that banana story
And
goes.
every time I said, we're going to get the banana in. So here it is. Here it is. Rock, who is now our community activist, our person of the
Our
future,
conscience.
our conscience, is saying
the adult in the room.
somebody wants a banana. And we discover that Harry has a little bit of an attitude about this lady somewhere who always expects us to do their shopping. And then we find out that Lily comes in and she wants everybody to meet Diego, her new boyfriend, the ballet dancer, while Pop-Pop's there. So that Pop-Pop
Let's
is...
talk about Pop-Up for a minute and
Yeah.
how we decided Harry's dad.
Samantha, you had that prototype guy that you thought was cool and great.
I mean, Harry is so darling and beloved to me, and he's the kind of guy that you can tell just comes from a great dad. And I thought I have he didn't formally adopt me, but I have like an old Jewish man who basically helped raise me when I was younger. And I thought, what if Harry had one of those?
Yeah.
An old Jewish man who actually raised him.
Yeah, and the idea being that we rarely bring family members into this show. And in this show, we're bringing in Aidan's family, and now we're bringing in a part of Harry's family that we've never seen. And luckily, we got blessed enough to have Harris Yulin play Harry's father. And he has such a sense, when you see him, you'll see him in the future, but when he comes in, he has such a sense of reality that it avoids any sort of cartoon trope because he's like grounded in real. But the idea that Harry had a father staying with them who was maybe starting to be too old or absent-minded.
Maybe
and
losing a
losing it
step.
a little bit.
Yeah.
And you start to see the beginning of Harry's worrying about his father being old, which is a very real storyline as you get older with your parents. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he's imagining the worst, that his father's wandering around in New Jack City like he's in a bad movie all of a sudden.
Instead of Park Avenue.
And Charlotte goes, what is it with you? What are you doing right now? And he just goes, he's old and he's going to get worse and he shouldn't do this. And then we cut from this family to the new family, Aidan's family, and Aidan's making, of course, the most perfect farm breakfast, pancakes. And Carrie is wearing Homer's uniform because he said, I'll get you something to wear. Now, we had a whole conversation. What could Carrie wear that he would have? And she's like, I'm not wearing any, like, it has to be special. So we decided she went through his drawers with him and said, I'll wear that. And because we wanted it to be a boy's outfit, but we wanted it to be somehow a kick to see her in it. So wardrobe created the Wildcat softball outfit. And you can't get close enough to see it, but it's got grass stains on it that have been tried to wash out, and it's ripped a little bit. So it's really cute to see her.
Yeah, I imagine it was from when he's a little younger, right? Because it's a little more fitted on her.
Homer, yeah, it's cute. And the fun thing about it is it's like one of the boys. Carrie's just one of the boys. It's almost like the four boys are around the table now, and you see that beautiful lake in the background. Now, another problem with production is you dream it up in the writing room, and we imagined a lake. A farm with a lake, because we thought that it has to be pastoral. The risk was when we went to Virginia, it had to be Norman Rockwell.
Yeah.
It had to be sunlit and green. And
Don't forget a guest house, too.
A guest house.
It needs a guest house and a lake.
And a red barn.
Yeah.
I mean, it had to have all these things. So we found that farm in the depth of winter and went there and was like, this will all be green probably. So let's do this and we'll do that house. So it was beautiful on the day. They went there. And what's interesting about this scene to me is that Wyatt isn't speaking. Homer's over speaking. Wyatt isn't speaking. Carrie's trying to be.
And Aidan is like totally nervous.
Yeah, and he's
joking,
making jokes.
you know.
And the plot point in the scene that's interesting, he asks her to stay longer than overnight. Stay till his oldest son's Tate's birthday. He's turning 21. So Carrie says she will, and you see just a look from Wyatt. Just a look.
Not psyched.
Not psyched. And the interesting thing about it is that there's a big dynamic that Carrie's aware of, and Wyatt's aware of, and Aidan's aware of, and everybody's aware of, but no one's actually speaking about it.
I think it's kind of like when you contrast this Carrie going to Aidan's country house to like Sex and the City Carrie going to Suffern, you know, like it's kind of, I don't know, it's such an amazing trajectory of growth.
She's trying
you know?
so
like,
hard.
She is game. She's not just there to look cute. Like she's fully invested in fitting in, being fun, being normal, being like everything that he might and the kids might want her to be.
It's interesting you mentioned Suffern, the other Aidan farmhouse or country house, because really what that show was about was her needs weren't getting met.
Mm-hmm.
She wasn't comfortable. And Carrie, through all this, knows what the stakes are. And she's just trying to make them comfortable. And she says, I can walk. No one has to take me. You can stay here and do what you're going to do. I'll walk.
I'll do anything.
Yeah.
Right.
I'll make this easy for all of you. And then Aidan says, you can't walk. It rained. And then Homer says, why don't you take the ATV? And she doesn't even know what that is.
You want to talk about how you came up with the
Highlight
ATV?
of my life. Seeing her on that
ATV is
ATV.
joy. How did you think of the ATV?
Incredible.
Like,
Oh, well,
did it
that's
just
what
spring to your mind?
it's just a character thing that I really wanted to see Carrie on something, some piece of farm equipment. And I wanted to get her away for a moment.
Yeah.
And it can't be a complete tractor, and it can't be a thresher, and it can't be a truck. What would be a doable thing? And ATV, everybody's, and also Dylan, who is our AD, is ATV maniac. All he does is ATV,
And
ATV
dirt
on the bike, dirt bikes, and
dirt bikes,
ATVs.
yeah.
And so that's always in my mind. That's part of like rural, even though he lives in upstate New York, that like that idea was in my mind, and it would be funny for Carrie. And we got a three-wheeler because you don't need a license to do it, and it's kind of like a toy. And then we put her on a red one with a matching red helmet. And then she says, I'm ready to shop. And she kicks her leg over that ATV, and she has those shoes on. And he says, you're hot.
Do I need a license for one of these?
Nope, but you got a license to thrill. You're as hot as a gas station calendar girl.
Which month?
All of them.
It's one of my favorite Aidan lines. That's what he thinks is hot, a calendar girl. The first thing that comes to his brain. You're
Well,
hot
that's
like a
adolescence.
calendar girl.
That's adolescence. That's that. Well, she is kind of with that little baseball uniform and everything. It's almost like June for the Mets, But the most interesting thing in this scene to me is that Carrie says,
Can you
kiss
Can
me?
I kiss you?
I had that same thought. Yeah.
She has to ask for it.
Yeah.
And they blow by it because they're both brilliant actors. John Corbett and Sarah Jessica, they know what's under there. They, can you kiss me? And he goes, I sure can. But it's not
She's
like...
playing by the rules. Yeah.
And it's like he just goes for it, but he can't stop kissing her in every other episode. And in this one, she has to ask for a kiss. And that's what happens when you drop in the middle of a family. Everybody that goes home becomes not themselves, correct? You certainly don't bring your
100%.
sexual self there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the idea that Carrie has to be somebody else and that Aidan is somebody else when she's in Virginia is really interesting to me. One of the personal stories in this show is right out of my direct personal life. It is the sleep talking at night. LTW talking in her sleep. My husband, Craig, is like, you talked all night long. When I'm writing, I just apparently talk all night. And one of the things I said one night was just, hey. And I was like, that's so crazy to put that in a show that somebody, but it's that thing about couples who sleep together. Yeah. And LTW is in her head wondering, what am I going to do about my editor? She has no editor, and the thing that's keeping her up all night is she goes to work. She finally selects an editor whose resume is thrilling, a woman named Marion. And then when Marion shows up, it's a man played by Mehcad Brooks.
Who's not just a man, not just any man.
The hottest
my
man.
Oh my God.
In the world.
I feel like this whole podcast is just going to be every episode is me talking about how hot
Well,
the dudes are, but
Well, that's
He
part
really
of, by the way,
is.
that's part of the writing job. Like,
Yeah.
what are we giving the audience that we haven't yet seen? And the idea of this that was so interesting for me was that a lot of you ladies in the writing room were like, just because you're married doesn't mean the world isn't still there.
Yeah.
And the idea of work and somebody cute at work is a new turf, right?
And it's like the most common thing.
So we chose as a group to bring into what is already kind of a delicious relationship, which is just LTW and Herbert, who is Chris Jackson, who is fly, to use the word. Now we're bringing in Makad. Why are we doing that?
Well, again, like back to what we spoke about last week, which was how do we find LTW's flaws? How do we find more of her vulnerability and humanity? And, here she is. We know she's happily married. We know they have a great sex life, but that doesn't mean that when someone shows up in a work setting, that she wouldn't find him attractive and be a little thrown by it. And it's so much fun to see her thrown off balance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, especially because her relationship is so... I mean, I like the sort of playing with fire of like her relationship is good. She and her husband love each other. But like, a charming, charismatic, beautiful man walks in the room, a little ripple's gonna go through the air.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're all about
You don't
really,
die
You
just
can't
'cause you're
not notice
married.
it. Yeah.
Mm-mm.
it's really story-wise and audience-wise and writing-wise. It's all about like, oh, let's see what that is. Let's create
Let's see
that
what
ripple.
happens. Yeah.
What's going to happen there? It's clearly something. I mean, he walks in and she's a little bit, and she's backed into a corner because he knows what the story is. And the thing before he walks in is Isha says, when she says, oh, there's no picture, I thought it would be a woman. She goes, let's move this conversation along. I don't want it read back to me in court.
I love that joke.
The idea that everybody's so hyper aware of genderfying.
And this was before DEI was illegal. This was before DEI became illegal.
Yeah.
So she has this meeting with this guy, and she knows she told Herbert she was going to hire the editor because it was keeping him up all night. But she then says, I'll make my decision tomorrow.
And her, like, to be clear, her conflict in this scene is really more about, I had this woman, this is a project about women. I was relying on this female editor, and now a man has shown up for the job. Is that, I think, even more than, and he happens to be gorgeous. It's really about, like, is it inappropriate for me to have?
Is it inappropriate
Yeah,
emotionally? But is it, she even says the thing that it dare not be spoken. Am I going to get dragged all over the internet if I hire a male editor to
And I love that we put that in because it is such a real calculation.
Concern, yeah.
Like people notice everything and you have to like try and cover all of your bases. And I love that we have her as an example of like how you have to do that.
I think it's also hard as a woman. There are power dynamics between men and women, and I'm not necessarily saying that like women are weaker and men come in and take advantage of that, but it's like I think sometimes men think they know better, and I think that's a scary thought when you're hiring someone who's supposed to be following your lead, especially artistically.
Right. I think the other thing that we did in the scene is we kind of made him perfect. I mean, we even had him reference Grace, who is her saving grace, literally. And he says, I was on the same softball team with Grace. He says everything a perfect editor would say, but I have a lot of opinions, but not in the room. This is your baby. I saw your movie. There's no way she shouldn't hire him. But even he says, I get it. Not a woman. And she's like, no, don't say that. That's a lawsuit. I don't need that. Let me think about it tonight. And then, of course, we get off the hook by having Herbert say, so he's a man, poor bastard. Is he at least black? And she goes, oh, he's black. So that's how they're going to play it if the internet says anything. Rather than a white guy,
Well,
she
and
hired a black guy.
For black people, that's real. The 1 out of 2 will take it.
Meanwhile, Carrie's now driven to what we're calling the sister wives dress store, is what she said to Miranda. And she is in a store surrounded by daisies and ruffles, daisy by daisies. And Miranda calls, and Miranda has news that Joy, her crush has invited her to go on BBC. She got her a job. So Miranda's excited because she wanted to get back on the air. That's what she said to Joy the first time she met. I want to do it and I haven't been asked. So Carrie is telling her, well, that'll be some joy in your life. And she's buying these dresses because she has nothing to wear. And the fashion faux pas of it all is, as we were looking at bad dresses, they were on the runway as good dresses.
Right.
Bad prairie floral dresses was the
height
only
of
thing
fashion.
people were showing. The trick was to find a dress that you would say, I love it, that Sarah Jessica would be okay with, that could still be
The
off-brand.
least Carrie for Carrie.
For Carrie.
Yeah.
And then they're all over the runways in Paris. And Molly was like, but that's what they're showing. Molly Rogers, our designer, was like, they're showing floral prairie dresses everywhere. And I was like, oh my God, you got to be kidding me.
It is interesting on this show, and I haven't worked on a ton of shows, but how much we do factor the fashion of it all into the writer's room. I love that. I think that is I don't think very many shows like incorporate into the daily discussion of where a story is going to go, like the outfit we're building it around or whatever. And I think that is
I mean,
very
it
cool.
happens a lot. It really happens a lot. But this was a really unique one because we had to get with Molly and said, these dresses are a character.
It's complicated because
What's
we're
it gonna
trying to
be?
get comedy out of it,
We're
too.
trying to get comedy out of clothes.
Right.
And that's tricky.
I do think that it made her look like, the first scene, she looks so out of place. And then as the episode goes on, like even the first blue dress, she kind of looks more costumey. But by the end, she's in that beautiful white dress that's, she looks like she belongs kind of.
Yeah. The little house on the Carrie.
That's,
Yeah.
I was going to say.
The Summer's Eve dress.
Yes. Like that's the genius and like the genius and the beauty of Sarah Jessica Parker as a person is like her physicality. Yeah, she can pull off the for the first 3 seconds, you're like, oh my God. And then, 5 minutes later, you're like completely buying it and she looks great.
Well, I'd like to think that she saved the better dress for the dinner because she knew that was going to happen. And she wore the shittier outfit fishing.
Yes.
She didn't care if it got messed up.
Right. And so before she goes fishing, we go back to New York City where it's cold and gray and smoky and rainy and everything else New York is foggy. And Seema has a visitor. Ryan Serhant is there because he wants to offer her again the number 2 position. And she turns him down.
Thank you very much. But no.
Okay. Well, if you don't intend to work for the Serhant Empire, then you might want to be off this floor by next week.
Which is the cartoon Titan real estate dick move that we all were expecting from such
Ryan
a colorful
Serhant.
character. Yeah. So she is set up with a problem. She has to leave and she has no office. And that's a big problem when you're a real estate developer.
Yeah.
You have no office. It's trouble. Then Aidan sees that Wyatt, who is played by Logan Souza, and Homer, they're on the porch, played by Corbin Drew Ross. These 2 boys of his are sitting out there. Homer, who is kind of perfect, is eating a peach. And Logan, the complicated one, is trying to get away on a video game where he's driving a fast red car. And if you remember, he drove Aidan's truck into a tree, drunk. That's how he broke his collarbone in his leg. So it's some kid who doesn't want to be there when Carrie shows up in the dress, the blue dress, Little House on the Carrie. But Aidan suggests they do stuff that they do on the farm. And this is the most aggressive line that Wyatt has. Like hide beer? And it's just a little touch. Those actors are really special. And, if you're trying to create a family and anything with an artifice that could pull away from that reality, you're in trouble. We didn't have any problem with any of these actors. They were so believable. But then we see Carrie fishing. Carrie's fishing, ladies and gentlemen. The whole and she says, and just like that, I'm fishing.
Giving it her all. Yeah.
I love how many times this woman brings up that she can cook salmon. She's
That's all she
very
No,
proud
but
of
you know,
it.
if you have one thing, you
I
gotta
love
talk
it.
about your
Exactly.
thing.
Exactly. I mean, because I buy that, you know, she's very proud of that. She did not used to cook at all, and now she can cook fish.
No, a salmon. That's it. And you see in this little scene beauty, and you see the sweetness of Homer, and then the complete pull away of Wyatt. He just doesn't want to have anything to do with it. And here she is trying to figure out, well, what can we do? Because what do you want to do? And he doesn't say anything. And then she runs into the barn and says, we're going to go to the mall and kill zombies.
Because I do think that some of his anger isn't necessarily at Carrie, it's at Aidan. He's annoyed that Aidan keeps doing these stupid, like, outdoorsy things that he doesn't want to do. And I think that Carrie is very smart to realize that and be like, please let me just, let me be the one coming in and making it fun,
She says in the scene, he's barely even made eye contact with me. I want to do this one thing.
And I want to go back for a second to the scene where she's talking to Miranda in the dress shop. Another little piece of what we were trying to do with Wyatt was he's either being a quote-unquote troubled puzzle of a child, or he's being a typical teenager. And this is what she asks Miranda, like, I don't know, he's just on screens all the time. And Miranda says, yep, that sounds like a teenager. Like, so it's like not knowing exactly how fucked up this kid is, versus, and especially for someone who doesn't have kids of her own. She's
absolutely.
like, well, I have nothing to compare this to.
And Miranda mirrors to her, this is typical.
Yeah.
So she goes forward. And right after that scene, by the way, she goes back in the afternoon, and Carrie and Aidan have afternoon sex where he's supposedly swimming and she's supposedly taking a nap. Now, this scene, those two actors in this scene, in those white sheets, being so cute after sex. And he basically, I mean, this is like John Corbett and Sarah Jessica Parker's ease at knowing each other for so long. That scene feels both exciting and relaxed. They love working together so much, but they make those lines so alive. And him sort of being cute and funny and then saying to her, do me a favor, spend some time with the kids to get to know you. Do it with both of them. And she says, I'll do that for you. But then she then asks for what she wants. Am I going to be out here again alone? And then he says, no, you can sleep in my bed in my chamber, like he's Henry VIII or something. And she starts laughing.
This is also one of the most male things Aidan's ever done, which is when she asks about the table, and he goes, what table? And she's just been stewing over this table for days and what his response meant. And he's
Right,
just
the
like,
table, the thumbs
la,
down
la, la.
Like, I
table.
don't care about that. What table?
Right.
it was fine.
Oh,
like,
okay.
Great.
Bing.
And then he gets
2 thumbs up.
Right. She has been carrying this for days and weeks. And she finally says to him, what was wrong with the table? He goes, what table? It's how you're focused on one thing and the partner's focused not at all. It's a drive-by. And then for her, it's everything. And then he goes, bing, bing. So she gets the thumbs up on the table, which makes her happy. And then they're fishing. So we leave them and we go to New York City, where Miranda's about to do her BBC live broadcast in front of the UN. Thank you very much, production value.
Thank you, UN.
Thank you, UN, again. And Joy is giving her some last-minute instructions, and Miranda braves asking her out.
Yeah.
And Joy says she has friends coming from England, so she'd love to, but she can't. And then she says, I'm going to the Gramercy Tavern, which Carrie's apartment is right near there. So Miranda says, come over for a drink. And you have a drink, I'll have tea and. Then Joe goes, oh, drink tea and, you're cheeky. Okay, I'd like that. And then Miranda goes on, and in the scene in the episode before, she told Miranda the only thing is don't race through. You've got to breathe when you're talking. And as Miranda starts the speech is about what's happening, you see she's starting to race and she hasn't taken a breath. And Joy reminds her right before she goes on, don't forget, take a beat and go. But Miranda happens to take a beat right in the middle of the word country.
The renewed fighting combined with the rough terrain makes it almost impossible for the displaced to access camps with safe water and sanitation in the wild countryside.
And you cut to the BBC camera crew going, what? What did she just say?
Did she just say cunt?
And, you know, the delight of us being on streaming at this point, to be able to say that and really, once again, embarrass Miranda, who is doing her best. And then that became the whole story. And she goes home and she gets a call from Brady. It's the first time we've seen him in the season. And he's working at Scout. And he says, hey, Mom. And he sent her the meme that's out where she's just going, wild cunt, wild cunt, wild cunt, wild cunt, wild cunt, wild cunt.
Yeah, I remember, I'm sure you all do, like the day in the room where we stumbled upon, because we were like, how could she mess it up? Like, what's the thing? And sometimes you have those moments in the room where you're like, yes, done, we found it.
I do remember having to act it. I do remember having to do the swallow.
Right.
You loved acting.
Yes.
No, I remembered having to prove, in theory,
how it could happen.
How it could happen.
Tree side.
The wild cunt, and you have to take the thing. And when I was writing it, I was like, swallows. Like I wrote that she had to do it, and then I had to show Cynthia how we thought it should be, and she, of course, killed it. But the idea that we have this perfect, idealized moment that now becomes a complete horror show for Miranda, and people have memed it, which is what everybody does.
Yeah. And I'll just also add that if this story had come up in Sex and the City back then, or even like 10 years ago, I can imagine having a conversation of like, well, I don't know that it would travel that quickly, and I don't know, it doesn't feel
feels
real.
unrealistic.
How would everybody? And then like, but the world we live in, it's exactly how it would happen. And it would be like on everybody's, TikTok and Insta Reels and all that.
And I think the remedy, the antidote to it is what Samantha pitched in the room, which is some celebrity will fall down and it'll all go away. It's that simple. You can have these giant comedy spikes and then a celebrity falls down and nobody even remembers what the other spike was, especially for somebody like Miranda. Who's she? Nobody knows who she is. It's just, Samantha, you would be sending the wild cunt meme around. You would.
Yes.
Oh, to everyone in my phone. I mean,
and then remember,
it would be burning up.
In season 1, Miranda hit Chucky in the head only because Samantha kept sending that meme of Chucky on the subway, and she goes, "This is why I'm never moving to New York. Is Chucky on the subway?" So,
Correct.
So this is a very accurate. What happens when you make a mistake in public, especially the combination of BBC and Wild Cunt, and then Miranda.
And Human Rights Watch.
Yeah, right. and that it's gotten suddenly so wide. And Miranda says, please let me be over. This is a disaster. And then we cut into the video game, which is like something that I hoped could happen. Because I've done a virtual reality game with my nephews, and it is disorienting. We actually did this version of the zombie killing with this company. And so I wrote this, and then the company was like, we'll do it. And we had to create exactly their video room. Their equipment is up to date. That's all current. And then they built the actual animation based on what we did with Sarah Jessica, John, Logan, and Corbin.
And choreographing it on set it took a while to get.
And here's the behind the scenes thing. I started to get, every now and then you hear something. And I started to hear Sarah Jessica doesn't like the video game scene. She doesn't want to do it. And I was like, what?
She doesn't want to kill zombies.
No, she doesn't. She just, like, I've never heard that before. And it was coming to me through, like, filters. And I was like, what do you mean? And I went to her and I said, she said, it doesn't feel like our show. I said, it's not. it's Aidan's show and you're in it. It's not your show. That's why it's in it.
Yeah.
You don't belong in that scene. She's like, okay, got it. But it was so foreign, it didn't feel like her
she
show.
left the planet.
And she was like, oh, okay. I said, that's because Carrie doesn't belong in that scene. That's why it seems so wrong for you. Because she rarely says this isn't a Carrie moment.
But Carrie's so down to try, and that's what I love about her. Like, it's just, she is in it, like, she's there and she's ready to
she's a gamer.
kill some zombies for her man.
And then killing
Do a lot
zombies.
of stuff when you're in love.
Killing zombies when you're in love, yeah. And then, of course, the accident that happens is, Sarah Jessica screaming like that and then seeing it. And if you ever look at it again, one of the characters says Carrie. And then one says Aidan. They're actually labeled as what they would be in the computer. And there's an accident that often happens. Somebody gets hit. And unfortunately, it happens to be Wyatt who hit Carrie. And Aidan overprotects the situation. Then he doesn't know what to do. Because she's like, her head hurts. And he says, don't make him feel bad.
Yeah. Again, that's his priority. He's number one. I'm looking out for this little person that I brought into the world.
Yeah. But the reality is that she's not allowed to express that her head hurts, even though she hasn't even said it, made a big deal.
She didn't make him feel bad. But
he's already out in front saying, don't make him feel bad.
Yeah.
Now, so the question is, did he hit her or didn't he hit her? Did he think he was saving his father or did he hit her on purpose? Who knows?
I think that's a good reality check, though, for her. I feel like, especially when you are newly dating someone with kids, like figuring out how other people parent and how that parenting affects your relationship with them and your relationship with the children. I think I'm glad we put that in there so she could have a moment of like, oh, okay, every time I get into a beef with this kid, I'm going to be shut down. That's got to factor into my life.
But she doesn't make a big deal about it.
No.
She doesn't.
Right.
It just goes
doesn't
in
shut down
or something.
No, because it just goes in the bank.
She clocks it,
Yeah,
and then
she
she's
clocks
like,
it,
okay.
If we step back from this moment, and kind of really zoom out to last season versus this season, I feel like what we were trying to do last season, they reconnected. It was really, until that last episode, it was perfection. They were in a fairy tale of
lavender haze.
No time has passed. We love each other. Our sexual thing is exactly where it used to be, even better. It was just off to the races. And this season, I feel like our job was, okay, if they're going to keep trying together and if they're going to kind of try and figure out this 5-year plan thing, let's make it as real as we could make it.
Yeah, it's very interesting that it's all about how do you keep going forward with new information. And she's down there and she's even fighting a battle. Literally, she's fighting a figurative battle and an emotional battle down there.
She's got her gladiator boots on.
Yeah, she does. She has her gladiator heels. And then we go to Seema's office, and it's the tiniest battle. She's just leaving, and she picks up from her desk a wildcat, a panther, to take with her. And as she's leaving, there's this lovely moment where one of the workers walks by her, and she says, "Goodbye, James." And the voice, the sadness in it is so sweet. And then she goes to her assistant, looks at her name and says, "Kiki," she says, "I started where you were. I see promise in you." And Kiki says, "My rent's $3,000 a month." She goes, "Got it."
So that was real.
That was my best Jerry.
Crashing back to earth.
That was my best Jerry Maguire.
Who's Jerry Maguire?
Exactly.
Jerry Maguire.
Once again, young people throwing things in older people's faces.
So Kiki made Seema feel a little old and out of it, and then we go right to a character that's going to make us feel young, which is Harris Yulin playing Harry's father.
Beautiful, brisk, Charlotte. And my sister said you'd never be a real Jew.
I thought Rita liked me.
Dad? Oh, never mind. It's perfect.
And Harris Yullin's such a grounded actor that it's thrilling. And then the banana lady wants a banana, and Harry loses his mind, and he goes to there's a knock at the door, but not before Miranda calls Charlotte from the toilet.
Oh, right.
Love it.
From the toilet, and realizes that Shu is looking at her while she's peeing. That cat looks
It's
at
a
a lot.
voyeur.
That cat's
that
a
cat's
voyeur.
all
What's
her.
happening in here?
Peeping Tom.
It's very realistic.
The cat's
The cat
there.
lady community will be grateful.
I mean, they walk in, and then she closes the door, and she asks Charlotte, "Did you see the meme?" And she says, "No, because blah blah blah." And she goes, "Oh, good, maybe no one saw it." And of course, Rock saw it, and she
calls out on the night.
I loved your meme. So Miranda's like,
Fuck me.
Call me later." And she says, I will from whatever country I live in." And then she hangs up, and there's a knock at the door. They think it's Anthony and Giuseppe, and she opens it up, and it's Marilyn, the banana requester from upstairs, played by Annie Golden, who is a phenomenal actress. If you've ever seen the movie Hair, she plays one of the main characters, and she's a wildly talented actress. We're so lucky to have her. But Harry's father
Is all over that.
he's all over Marilyn. And then he invites her for
I
brisket.
love that.
He invites her for brisket.
And Harry's thrilled.
So
I got a
meanwhile, we're
spare
back
banana.
now. We're back. What? What?
So
Ray?
I got a spare banana. Sorry.
You should be. Anyway, then we're back at Carrie's, and it's time for the birthday of Tate's birthday. And there's this beautiful Martha Stewart-esque pastoral table set outside. She's wearing the long white dress. He makes a Summer's Eve commercial. If you didn't get Jerry Maguire, you won't get that.
Some jokes are for us.
Yeah, and that's Summer's Eve was a douche commercial, wherever it was all about walking in a field, and in comes the rest of the family.
Kathy.
Tate, who he calls Tater Tot, the oldest and tallest of them all, played by Jason Smith, fantastic. Kathy, of course, Rosemarie, and then her boyfriend Bob, played by the very quixotic, amazing actor Tony Crane. So we wanted to introduce Kathy's significant other to Aidan's significant other, Carrie, and just get a little bit of this dynamic. But the most important thing is that Kathy privately thanks Carrie for the Adderall. Mm-hmm. And Carrie's more than happy, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And
she did her job.
Yeah.
She did the impossible. She brought her Adderall. And then Miranda calls. And she goes down and she finds out Miranda's in the apartment that she's house sitting. And she's not happy because Joy canceled the Gramercy because she's said her friend showed up late. And Miranda thinks it's because of the meme. And Carrie suggests, well,
invite all of them over.
Invite them over for a drink. And you're brilliant. And I will. And she says, I don't have any furniture. Oh, wait, I have a bed. Oh. So Miranda's got tea and on her mind.
I don't have furniture, but I do have wine.
I do have wine. And they all decide they're going to come over. And then we see, after the birthday picnic, they're opening presents. Carrie is sitting while they open presents with Bob, Kathy's significant boyfriend, Bob. And he starts letting us know what it's like to be in this family. And that Aidan doesn't like him butting in. And every now and then there's a bump. But then he says the phrase that kills me, but 4 years down the road, it's starting to feel pretty normal. Can you imagine? Carrie's having a rough first week, and he says 4 years down the road, it's starting to feel pretty natural. But then he brings up what?
Then he says, Aidan doesn't like when I have opinions about the kids, like that Adderall thing. And this, I want to just say, like, in addition to the Adderall shortage, this was something that I personally felt really strongly about because I've noticed in my travels that parents have a lot of opinions. There's a lot of fear. There's a lot of love for some people for these medications that help with the ADHD symptoms. I've seen a lot of parents who have different, very strong feelings about drugs or no drugs. That debate goes through so many families. And I felt like this is a perfect, especially if the Adderall is coming to town, it's a perfect conflict for us to see Carrie kind of unwittingly stuck in the middle of this couple. Like
Right,
that
and
felt
they-
very believable to me.
Kathy feels it's valuable, and Aidan feels it's bad because he says later he already has abuse problems, and Aidan thinks he's going to paint the kids to happiness.
Yeah.
They're just
A
going to
lot
keep
of-
working,
yeah.
working on the barn, doing a lot of busy stuff. Anyway, the shock is that Carrie finds out that Aidan's not on board with the Adderall. She immediately excuses herself and goes out to him, who's lighting the birthday candles on the cake, and says, "I would have never done it." Shocking.
Yeah.
And he doesn't want to talk about it.
Bob's a little gossip.
Okay, wait. I have to rep for Bob.
I love Bob.
I love Bob.
For
I do
one
love
second.
Bob.
I do. I love the idea as someone who didn't come from like a big bustling family. So I've often been like invited to other families' things. It's fun to be an outsider and like gossip about the stuff the family is doing. I don't have any opinion on things children do. That's where Bob and I differ. I don't care. I'm not their mom. But I did love that he was trying to like get Carrie into like a conspiratorial whisper, and she was like, no, I'm gonna go talk to my man. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. She was like us again. He was doing a little us against them, you know? Like, we're in this together. Whoa, you and me, we're the outsiders, right? And she was like, I'm
she's
not
like, no, actually, I'm on the inside.
Yeah.
She gets right up as a grown-up, doesn't carry it, doesn't literally worry about it. She goes right out and says, I didn't know. I would have never done it. And he doesn't want to talk about it. He says, not now. It's the birthday.
Yeah, I mean, he's literally lighting candles.
Yeah. And yeah, again,
Not the best time.
You're not. It's not about you. Like, yeah.
Yeah, it's really, I have to do this thing for the kids.
Yeah,
I'm lighting
yeah.
candles right now. So not now, Carrie. Not now, Carrie is another place where John Melfi, our executive producer, is always involved in every cut. He's like, whoa, that's rough. Oh, not now, Carrie. Get out. He's like out the door when he hears not now, Carrie.
It's like this close to saying shush to someone. It's a not now.
Well, or let's take Aidan's point of view.
Yeah.
It's too dangerous.
I mean,
Let's not even talk about
this now. It's not the time for this, yes.
Also, I have been repressing this since the day before yesterday when you told me about the Adderall. That's where the audience clocks. Oh, that's what his face was in episode 3.
Yeah.
You know,
They've
at the
had
end.
alone time, and he's chosen not to speak, like to not talk about it. So he clearly doesn't want
Her involved. He doesn't want her
I think
in
he
the
also
mess.
just doesn't want her to feel bad. I think he knows that she's going to feel bad if she knew that he didn't want Wyatt taking them.
Let's talk about Aidan's desire for Carrie's working very hard for everything to go well. So is Aidan.
Yeah.
He's trying to make everything go well. He's making pancakes. He's doing
He's
this.
trying too hard.
And
really.
the reason he didn't bring up the Adderall is I don't think he wants to get her in the middle of an event that it really isn't necessary at all. That's between him and Kathy, and he needs to be between Carrie and him, not him and Kathy and him. Anyway, then we leave the beginning of the complicated night of birthday candle blowing out, and we come into Miranda opening the door to Joy and her British friends, who seem very fancy and very chatty and recognize her instantly as wild cunt, just when she thought it was going to go away.
Oh my God, I can't believe we're in Wild Cunt's flat.
Well, this isn't actually my flat. And the meme was taken out of context.
Don't you mean cunt text?
There's nothing more amazing and sexy and funny than saying cunt over and over again. It's my favorite thing. It's just...
Yeah, they walk in. Miranda is thrown because this is not the way she wanted this to go. And as they walk away, you just see Joyce sort of look at her, and then Miranda clocks, I wish it didn't happen. And then later in that scene in the kitchen, they're just doing what friends do, having a great time. And Miranda's sort of getting ice and trying to fit in, but she keeps looking at Joy, who is not looking at her, is really looking away
Yeah.
and looking down. And it's not the night she planned.
And I feel like this was another chance for us to look at Miranda as a dater again. You know, the previous episode felt like so promising. We had a lot of debate in the room about should they kiss at that breathing scene in episode 3, or do we hold it so that they could kiss when they kiss in this episode? And I'm personally very happy that it landed where it did, because those early, before you've kissed someone, before you actually know it's moving to the next level, it's such a delicate and tense, fraught, confusing,
stressful.
time. What is more
Anytime,
stressful than
nothing.
meeting someone you like and they're friends?
And they're very chatty and they're in their own world, and you're like now the waitress.
You've been a joke that day.
Well, I think she's also trying to follow Joy's lead, and Joy is not giving her
No, she keeps
anything.
trying to
You know what I
connect
mean?
with Joy, and Joy is not connecting back. And the night scene continues with, we pick up the Harry and Charlotte thing in bed. And it's a rare moment where Harry can't get hard. And
we've never seen that.
Never
with
seen
him.
that, because from day one in that old bachelor apartment that he was showing her that a friend of his had, he was instantly hard and they jumped into bed. The one thing they always had was Harry was a goer, and he could not believe how much he was into Charlotte because she was so amazing that it made him hard. And for the first time, these two characters are not getting what's normal. And those two actors, Evan and Kristen, I mean, just years and years and years of playing these parts. And to see this, and I mean, I directed it, and I didn't have to do much. They're so amazing, but you really believe this is happening.
Mm-hmm.
He's really trying to penetrate her and get hard, and it can't happen. And really,
she looks so hot.
She looks so
In the
hot.
scene. She really does. She looks. So it's something
else.
Something on Harry's side,
And then
because she looks real
what we
good.
settled on is the fact that she says, she gives him a break, that your father's in the next room. And it really comes around to his fear of being old, which I think is so interesting when you start thinking about things falling apart. He says, I already have his feet, I don't want his dick. The idea that age takes away who you are, your virility, your manhood, and is this really happening? When your parents start to become very, very addled, it's only a matter of time. It just goes directly to you. When's that going to happen to me? Oh, I must be getting old too. And she has the scene where she says, okay, let's talk about it. Who are we if the sex goes away? Are we not going to be Harry and Charlotte? It's very
intimate. I mean, it is the most loving, intimate, married couple scene. Right?
Yeah, I mean, it is really daring for these two characters in a couple that never had to question or talk about this, because that was the given, to say, well, who would we be without sex on a show that was created from Sex and the City? And I think Charlotte's amazing in this scene. She just and he finally comes around and says, I will love you any way possible. And then there's a knock on the door, and they get very proper because it's rock. So they cover themselves up. He covers his nipples up too. And Rock comes in, and we find out the thing that Harry asked her to do in the first scene, which is fix Pop's laptop because he can't download anything. And what Rock says is everything that's on there that's jammed up is porn, which is somehow triumphant. It's
Pop.
It's triumphant for Harry, because then he finds out that Pop is not in his bedroom next door, but he's up at Marilyn's, and he said he don't wait up. So speaking of up, Harry feels like things might be looking up for him too.
He said he's going up to 10F and not to wait up for him.
There's life in the old banana yet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's giving her that leftover brisket.
Banana is still ripe.
His banana is still, there's room.
But
in the
not
old-
overripe.
Life in the old banana yet. Anyway, and then we cut into Apples to Apples, which is the game that is also the namesake of this show. Elisa pitched Apples to Apples as a thing that people play. I had not played it, but we
But
immediately
then all of us had
we all
apples
got
to apples
apples.
experiences.
We all played Apples to Apples since, and we realized that it's a good way to show a family dynamic. And it's tricky because you have to really somehow play the game.
Yeah.
And you take a lot of valuable writing time to say, here are the rules, here's where we are. But that family around that table is so believable to me, that game.
Yeah. The fun thing about Apples to Apples, because really, like, I love games in general tend to bring out people's personalities, right? And but Apples to Apples is perfect for this show because the whole goal is to be funny. So it gives us a little help in keeping the game fun and funny and accessible. And that's
It's
how
very
Some people
realistic
don't
that
like
one
that.
person
Yeah.
will not understand that it's funny and
My
get
husband
mad.
refuses to play because he's always like, no one ever picks my cards. So it's a very real
I mean, it's
It's so
you know?
easy to have your feelings heard, and
And the dynamic. First of all, everybody's so charming and funny, and Aidan is a goof. He's a complete lovable goof, standing up and doing all that. But the person whose card's not getting picked is the person who already feels on the outside, and doesn't
like whatever the issue is that's hiding is going to come out in that game.
right. And the trigger is literally, he's right. He says, Mystique is a character. Why wasn't it Jennifer Lawrence? The word
For mysterious, yeah.
is right in her name. And you just picked Carrie, and then it gets into Carrie, and no one picked me. And then the boys, you really start to see the dynamic. The other boys are like, come on, here we go, here we go. And you start to get the deep
This
history
is the family
of like Wyatt's needs a lot of attention. They have to put up with it. They're embarrassed. Homer's embarrassed in front of Kathy. Tate's fed up. He just has another beer because he turned 21. And then Wyatt quits. And Aidan is
and
not
wants
having
to get back on the screens.
back on
it's
Switch.
And then it's like marriage counseling, family therapy, all at once. And Carrie's
calling
just
out.
sitting there.
Carrie's sitting there, and he's saying, "I didn't carry muling these drugs down here." And then it all just breaks, and Wyatt leaves, and he's out by himself, and then they just are pissed.
I don't need his opinions on how I raise my family.
So it's your family now. Take a breath, Aidan. Great birthday. I'm sorry, Tate.
Fuck you, Wyatt! Fuck you, Homer! Fuck you all!
And all of a sudden, out of the darkness in the backyard, when he comes up with one of the paint rollers on a thing, and he breaks that window. And basically, there goes the artifice. He breaks the glass, he breaks the fantasy, he breaks the idea that this is all easy to figure out. And the look on Carrie's face when Aidan runs out and Kathy's upset, and you're really in the middle of what we hoped people would understand is a real problem.
Mm-hmm.
And we see Miranda and Joy leaving, and Miranda has decided she's going to talk about the problem that she just experienced, where she thinks Joy wasn't looking at her because she thinks she's embarrassed, and she doesn't want her because she said a stupid meme. And Joy then begins to we see some of her personality. She said, when I tend to like someone, I pull away. So now we're starting to see that.
Yeah, some vulnerability in her.
And Aidan has said to Carrie, when they drive away, "Are you all right?" Carrie says, and he says, "I just need to go for a real swim." And he just goes and leaves her standing on that porch. And the next scene after Miranda and Joy kiss, which is lovely, is on Carrie's phone. You see her security camera go off, and she sees the beginning of a relationship when she's sort of dealing with her very long relationship, and Aidan comes in. And what I like in this scene, from the writing point of view, their discussion is we have Carrie say everything that the audience has seen in the first 3 episodes. We just call it all out.
Mm-hmm. She owns it. Yeah.
I have mattresses in the upstairs hallway. I haven't moved forward. I've been playing games, waiting for you to make all these decisions.
She's such a grown-up. She's
Yeah.
so emotionally intelligent to be able to say that this is, I've been saying this, but I've been feeling this, and, I didn't think it was real. I mean, that's such a
Because I don't think
hard thing to say.
it is. I
didn't
mean,
believe you.
I didn't believe you.
Yeah.
And I think half of the audience, well, maybe all of the audience didn't believe him. And hopefully now, after seeing this dynamic, they will believe that it's a real reason that he can't be there. And then, of course, Aidan says, "Are you breaking up with me?" And John just kills you
Yeah.
when he says that. His face.
Tears.
And then she, of course, says no, which is the grand gesture. I'm not breaking up with you, which is where I think half the audience thinks or all, that this is going. And she gives him a key.
It's the opposite of breaking up with
It's the
them.
opposite of breaking up. And she says, use it when you can, but don't use it out of guilt, which is why he invited her to stay at the house overnight out of guilt. So they're very good communicators right now.
Yeah.
They are really
together. Yeah.
together in a very complicated situation. And they're
I think a little bit Aidan didn't even necessarily believe, because in, I think it's episode 2, he says, like, I think I was really upset. Like, maybe I don't need to be as strict about stuff. And I think that this was a really hard night for him to realize, like, oh yeah, I can't do both.
well,
right now.
when you
I
have a
can't.
witness, when you have a
Yeah.
witness, when you're in the family dynamic, everybody has their own role. But when somebody is watching it, it's like they're turning
Yeah,
a
when you
light on
see it
in a bar
reflected
at the
in
end of the
someone
night.
else.
Yeah, you see everything. Suddenly he sees that dynamic. I mean, it's clear
And,
as
and that's why SJ's acting is so brilliant in that scene. She doesn't really say anything, but just her face shows it all everything that she's thinking.
yeah. And then she gives him the key and she says, "I'll be there." And he says, "Thank you." And then you see her on the plane and she decides, well, I'll get the table that we love. And when she looks
Tries.
when she tries, it's sold. And we go back. This is the only voiceover she's writing again now. At the end, she says that the journey had brought her somehow closer to and further away from the thing she most wanted, something like that. And it's our way of saying, we did everything we could for Carrie and this family. And still, something was lost. But maybe she'll gain something, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
And she's working. I love that she's continuing in a very grown-up way to try to work it out through her work rather than, a last-minute phone call to, Miranda or something on the plane. Oh my God, you won't believe what happened,
Oh yeah.
yeah, truly,
Yeah.
that is the important thing. And also, I think the reason it's in her work is it's too even private.
Yeah.
Because when Miranda calls her, she never mentions a thing about,
Yeah. She just minimizes it with the screens,
yeah.
So.
It's a very evocative ending of episode 4, Apples to Apples. And I think the title is interesting because it's really about comparing. You're comparing this to that and this to that. And this relationship to that relationship, our relationship to the family, it's all about comparing things. And what she comes away with is a very cold shower of a reality of this is really complicated. And she has moved forward thinking, this is worth it. I still want to be in it. Because she could have gotten out.
Yeah.
It's clear she could have left. She
Right.
could have said, I love you, but this is it.
Right. And the question is remains they both love each other. It's obvious, but is that going to be enough?
Right. And just like that, we reached the end of episode 4 of season 3. Thanks so much to Elisa, Samantha, and Rachel for joining me. We'll be back next week to unpack episode 5, Under the Table. As ever, you can stream new episodes of And Just Like That Thursdays on Max. And just like that, The Writer's Room is produced by Sony Music Podcasts for Max. At Sony, Sharon Morris is the executive producer, Gianna Palmer is the lead producer, Sammy Allison is head of production. Tamika Balance-Kalasny is our production manager, and Sam Baer is our engineer. Special thanks to Becky Rowe, Allison Cohen-Sorokach, Kenya Reyes, and Aaron Kelly from the Max Podcast team. Thank you for listening.